Are you ready to age with grace and strength? If so, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Graced Health Podcast for women who want to age strong in their physical, mental, and spiritual health in a diet culture-free way. My name is Amy Connell. I'm a weight-neutral certified personal trainer and nutrition coach who loves walks with friends, chocolate, and Jesus. I'm glad you're here. Hey there, welcome today. So glad you're here. I've got a question that's kind of a dumb question. What have you missed this season? And that's kind of a dumb question because if you have missed it, then you don't know what you have missed. Today, I am doing something that I started several seasons ago, and that is a recap of all of the episodes we have done this season. Typically, I operate in 3 seasons. One of them begins in January and will go about until the summertime, around June. That's like this season. I will typically do something short just to give myself a break in midsummer, and then I'll have another season that begins around August or September and continues to the end of the year. This season 23, has actually been 23 episodes, and I have had so much fun with them. Every time I close the book on a season, I'm just so proud of it. And I'm so grateful for the incredible guests that have come by. And I can't imagine being able to replicate that again. Like, what is there? What else is there to talk about? And yet there's always something that comes along. Today, I want to break down the episodes that we've had this season into a couple categories and just give you a very high level overview so that you can go back and listen to any of them that you may have missed. And I will say, I expect that you will miss some. I know even with my very favorite podcasts I listen to, I miss some episodes, whether or not I'm traveling or busy or just things don't line up. So I expect that you miss some. And it's funny, I have a girlfriend I was just with over the weekend, and she said, well, typically what I do is I open up the email I get on Tuesday mornings. And those, if you don't get those are the ones that say like, hey, this is the episode, this is what to expect. It includes links or maybe some behind the scenes things. And it's just kind of an overview. And I can tell from the back end analytics that a lot of you will open that up and you're like, okay, well, is this, let's be honest. You're probably like, is this something I want to listen to, or is this something that I want to skip? And not every episode is for everyone, so that's okay. But she said, I'll typically open it up and I see if the topic is something I am interested in learning about, or if it's a topic that she may have a little inside track to, because we're very close. We talk often, and sometimes she'll want to listen to that. This season is somewhat unique over the last several years, and that is many of the episodes were solo episodes. Of the 23, I had 8 guests, and 15 of those were just me behind the mic. I have to be honest, I am somewhat relieved by the download numbers that you all like it when it's just me. I know you love my guests to come on as well, but it is nice to know that the more specific episodes that I have been putting out are applicable to you, you are interested in, and I'm grateful that you are clicking on those and listening. With that said, I want to give you a quick recap of each episode, and with the ones that have guests, I am going to share their one simple thing that I ask all of my guests to do. So if you are brand new and you're like, I just kind of want to get a sampling of what these episodes are about and what Graced Health is about. First of all, I'm so glad you're here. Welcome. One of the things I do when I have guests is I invite them to have the last word of the episode. I ask them to share one simple thing they want our community of listeners to remember, big or small, that hopefully is easy to remember. So that is the one simple thing that I will share on the episodes where I have guests. The first category of episodes was that of nutrition. I started off in episode 4. And of course, all of these are season 23. If you hear me say an episode number, but not a season number, all of them are season 23. So in episode 4 of this season, I released a solo episode called Ultra Processed Foods, Food Science, and Intuitive Eating, How to Create Balance. What I did in this episode was try to take my love of nutrition and food science and how food truly does impact our bodies and overlay that with intuitive eating, because we are an intuitive eating focused show. I think that that's a big misconception from the outside world of like, well, an intuitive eating is just eat whatever you want, whenever you want. And while we don't demonize foods, we do want to be thoughtful about foods that we are putting in. And of course, not blaming or shaming ourselves when we do have the Chick-fil-A breakfast burrito like I had for breakfast this morning. But basically in this episode, I just give practical strategies to enjoy those ultra processed foods while still honoring your health and well-being and helping you make decisions that will help you feel and function well without being too steeped into diet culture. Episode 11 was another solo episode titled Nutrition Essentials in Perimenopause and Beyond. Basically, what I do here is dive into 6 essential nutrition guidelines for those of us who are in perimenopause and beyond, which I think is pretty much most of us who tune in to the Graced Health podcast. This episode blends practical strategies as well as some of the more mind-body stuff, as well as some of the mindful eating and just kind of the psychological stuff that goes into food, because let's be honest, that is an important element of eating and enjoying our food and feeling satiated and all of that. I talk with a lot of women who say something like, just tell me what to do. And this episode gets into a bit more of more practical guidelines that you can take and you can implement. And this is also something that I take and I expand on just a little bit in my course, Strong and Vibrant at Home. We have wrapped that up, but we will be launching it again in mid-August. So if you do not receive emails from me, you definitely want to sign up for that so you can be sure to get notified whenever that comes out. And you can sign up for that either in the episode notes or the show notes, or just go to gracedhealth.com. That's gracedhealth.com/nourishing-notes. And that'll get you on my biweekly newsletter of ways that I like to fill my body, mind, and spirit. So I'll have more information about that at the end of the episode. The third nutrition-focused episode was one that just came out last week, and it was a little different, but I found a way to tie it into something that I thought would be helpful and beneficial to you. And that was how to choose seafood and avoid the rare Ciguatera poisoning I contracted. So basically in 2019, I was vacationing in the Bahamas. I contracted Ciguatera from eating a toxic fish. And this episode shares some of my story about it, as well as a wonderful resource that can help us choose seafood that is not only responsibly sourced, but also potentially safer for us. So go listen to that if you like to eat a lot of seafood. I think you will find the resource that I mentioned in that episode really helpful. That was episode 22. The next category of episodes was fitness. As a personal trainer, of course, this is where I really love to dig in and really nerd out with a lot of this. And this was very evident in episode 9, which was entitled The Bone Battle No One is Talking About How Strength Changes Everything. I have a friend who said, there's a lot of people telling me I need to strength train, but I really still don't quite understand the why. So in this episode, I get into not only the why behind strength training, but actually what is going on with our bones. Probably you know that you need to strength train for your bones, but do you know why strength training is good for your bones? If you too like to nerd out about fitness, this is an episode for you. This was episode 9. And this one will really help you understand why the strength training is so beneficial for our bones. Episode 10 takes that a bit further, and it is how to protect your vulnerable areas with strength training. We have 4 areas that are more vulnerable for us as we age because of our changing hormones. What I do with this episode is break those down. I share those 4 areas with you to strengthen and protect your bones, to help you build muscle health while you are aging. And this is a great one to start for anyone who has ever thought, I know I need to strength train, but I don't know what to do. I also have a great free download in this episode where you can get exercises that focus on these 4 episodes. And then I have a QR code that will take you to YouTube and I show you how to do those movements. So if you're one of the ones saying, I don't know what to do, I'm telling you what to do here. And I'm doing it in a very loving and grace-filled manner. Episode 17 was inspired by a Facebook group I'm in of women who are 40 and older. And that one was called, Should I Wear a Weighted Vest? I don't know about you, but I am seeing weighted vests more and more, especially in women our age. When I saw the question on a Facebook group of like, should I be wearing one and what kind should I get? I decided I would really dig into that. This one includes a decent amount of research I have done and guides you of the benefits of it, when to wear it, who should not be using weighted vests, and what to look for when you're purchasing. So if you are on the fence or if you are considering that, go listen to this episode before you decide if you want to wear one or not. Episode 20 was also inspired by a community I'm in. I am grateful and honored to be one of the trainers on the Stronger Collective, which is a diet culture free app for Christian women who are pursuing health. We have all kinds of different trainers on there, and then we have a community. There, of course, are workouts, there are recipes, we've got registered dietitians, we have coaches, but in the community section, someone said, I need new shoes. What kind of shoes should I get? And I thought, you know what? This is a good opportunity to have an episode about that. So in this episode called Finding Your Perfect Fit, Decoding the Secret to Choosing the Right Shoes, again, that's episode 20. Just consider this a comprehensive guide to selecting and fitting and purchasing your shoes based on your needs. I will tell you, I do not come in here and tell you what kind of brand you should get, because guess what? All of our feet are different. But I do talk some about when it's time for new shoes, finding the right fit for you, getting some foot assessments, ways to kind of work around the system and get some that are less expensive, but still high quality. Going barefoot when you need shoes and when you don't. I'm actually a proponent of going barefoot when you're strength training, if it is safe and possible. And I will say this, I want to give a shout out to someone. I don't know who it was, but in that episode, I said, hey, I want to know what kind of shoes you're wearing. Let me know, because in every episode, at the very top of the episode, it says, have a question, click here. And so I asked people, hey, I would love to hear from you what kind of shoes you wear. So I want to give a shout out to the person who said, I wear Rykas. I wear both the CrossFit and Devotion XT3. I have been wearing them for 5 years and currently have 9 pairs that I rotate through. I do dance fitness 6 times a week. Okay, this person, you and I are cut from the same cloth. I have a graveyard of old Brooks running shoes in my closet. I have such a hard time throwing them away. And also, when I was doing group fitness, I wore Rykas a lot. They are a fantastic shoe to wear, particularly like if you are in group fitness, if you are on your toes a lot doing stuff. And so I'm so glad that you are wearing them and like them. And clearly you have found a shoe that works for you. I'm just going to pause really quickly and say that as I am recording, there is a pretty good storm coming through. So if you are hearing thunder and rain in the background, welcome summer storms, but we will just keep going and hopefully I do not lose power. In episode 19, we had Seasons of Strength, adapt your workouts through summer. And I wanted to take this episode as an invitation to consider changing up your workouts for the summer, whether you want to intentionally change it because you need just something new or because your life looks very different in this season or during this summer. This is a great opportunity to change things up, which actually have a lot of benefits from a fitness perspective. So if you're like, oh gosh, I've always done this and I feel bad because now I'm changing it up, then this is an episode that you'll want to listen to. Episode 19 called Seasons of Strength, adapt your workouts through summer and beyond. Another category I typically will have more episodes in. I'm not quite sure why I didn't have more in this season, but That's just how it goes sometimes, is faith. In episode 12, we had Alexandra Yu on. That episode was entitled Finding God's Wisdom First, A Path to Holistic Healing. Alexandra is a registered nurse. She's an author, a podcaster, and she really encourages us to seek God's wisdom first for health and healing. She shares her journey from being really focused on food, and she emphasizes the importance of going to God first for health guidance rather than immediately turning to Google, which I don't know about you, but I am definitely guilty of doing that. If you are interested in more holistic healing, if you are interested in overlapping your faith with your health journey, this is a great one to listen to. And here is Alexandra's one simple thing.
Remember to go to God first. And if you feel like you're having trouble hearing God or you don't know him that well, just remember there's also a verse that says, draw near to me and I will draw near to you. So just keep on pressing in, reading your Bible, getting into Bible studies. Just if you go after God, all it takes is like one tiny step and you'll find that he's right there. So I just want to encourage you with that.
The next unplanned category, when I started pulling all of these episodes together and looking at commonalities, is nervous system and stress management. We had 3 episodes in this season that focused on helping to manage our nervous system and help us manage stress. The first one was with Sherry Shaban in episode 8 that was entitled Your Nervous System on Diet Culture, How to Break Free and Find Peace. Sherry has a pretty incredible journey from being a competitive athlete to having a life-changing back injury and then a really tough relationship with food and fitness. Sherry and I dive into understanding the role of the nervous system in eating behaviors and educated us more on the body's protection mode that can trigger survival mechanisms like slowing down metabolism and binge eating just as a response to trauma, emotional distress, or even just like perceived scarcity. Her approach focuses on healing those underlying emotional issues and shifts away from diet culture and a diet culture mindset to intuitive eating and understanding just the deeper motivations behind health and fitness. I had a lot of positive response on this episode, and I'm so glad to have Sherry on. Here is her one simple thing.
Consistency first, then intensity. And that really is the way to any sort of success or results. Just stay consistent, make it small and make it repeatable.
Next up, we had Ann Swanson coming in on episode 15 with Meditation Myths Busted, a guide to everyday mindfulness. Ann Swanson is the author of Meditation for the Real World and Science of Yoga. We talked about meditation benefits, how to meditate at 3 a.m. when we are awake, some common misconceptions and just practical tips, and also took a minute and just guided us through a meditation. One of her tips for dealing with insomnia and the inability to calm down is one I have been using a lot lately and have had great success with. You can listen to it fully in the episode, but basically she talks about this concept of just taking everything down, and with that, slowing our breath down and then counting down our breaths. So she says, start at 100 and count down. If you lose your place in line, you have to go back up to 100. This has been a great way for me just to just take myself down, whether or not I am awake at 3 a.m. or I am just trying to close my eyes at 3 p.m. to power down for a minute. Both of Anne's books are so visually appealing. And if you are interested in meditation or if you practice yoga, I know you would really enjoy both of her books. You can certainly find those in the show notes of that episode. And that, again, that's episode 15, Meditation Myths Busted. Here is Anne's one simple thing.
I think our theme was really about down. So bringing the breath down, settling down, that squeeze and release technique down, counting down. those tools you can use not only in the middle of the night when you're trying to fall asleep, but when you need to settle down during the day, right? Just take a few breaths by bringing the breath down, nose breathing, settling down. So I think that was a theme. If you came up with something, remember the word down.
Right after that, we had Janice McWilliams on. Janice is a psychotherapist, a spiritual director, and author of the book Restore My Soul, Reimagining Self-Care for a Sustainable Life. This episode was called Beyond Barbie-Style Self-Care, Transforming Your Nervous System's Response to Calling with Janice McWilliams. I really enjoyed this conversation with her, and she just has so much gentle wisdom to practice meaningful self-care that goes beyond the manicures and the pedicures and all of the things that she calls Barbie-style pampering to really create our own sustainable rhythms. I think that you would gain so much from this episode if you are ever feeling just overwhelmed with life and particularly overwhelmed with your calling. One of the things she does is help people prevent burnout while living out their calling. Take a listen to this episode with Janice McWilliams, and here is her one simple thing.
Self-care does not have to be so hard. The best of self-care is daily and doable. And that's what I want people to remember.
Next category is very uncreative, and I called it just general wellness. These were more what we would call one-off in the business world that I didn't really have a bucket to put them in, but I felt like they were all important episodes to include in our holistic body, mind, spirit pursuit of diet culture free health and of grace focused health, and to help us age with grace and strength. So they're a little bit all over the place, but also they all count because there's so much that does contribute to our holistic health. Episode 1 and episode 2 were actually 8 questions to ask yourself in the new year that I split up into 2 different episodes. You can listen to those, but basically these are questions to ask yourself not only in the new year, but whenever you're doing something new and whenever you're wanting to just kind of reset, rethink about how you're doing things, what's working well, what's not working well, and go from there. So I just give you 4 questions to consider. And because I won't ask you to do anything that I won't do, I do share my answers to each of those. You can listen to both of those, episode 1, episode 2, 8 questions to ask yourself at the very beginning of this season. In episode 4, I welcomed Michael Ulloa. I loved this episode. This was called The Wellness Industry Has Lost Its Mind. Here's How to Navigate It. Michael is a real leader in challenging diet culture, challenging things that we may see as trends in the wellness industry with no-nonsense, evidence-based approach. We talked about problematic patterns and dangerous trends in wellness culture, just kind of how to figure out like if what you're seeing online is actually true. And he gives some recommendations of trusted sources. I will also tell you that the podcast that he is a co-host of, which is called How to Fitness with Kate Lyman, is fantastic. They dig into topics that are out there and they really bring the research. So if you are looking for research-backed information beyond Graced Health, I hope you feel like you get that here. Go check out How to Fitness with Michael Ulloa and his co-host, Kate Lyman. Here is Michael's one simple thing.
I think I might just bring it back to that comment that I made earlier in terms of like how our bodies are supposed to look. It's always at like the forefront of all the content that I create on social media because I truly think it is so important. I know a lot of people, they do message me saying like, oh, it's easy for you. Like I look how social media says that we should look, right? I am a slim white male and this is what fitness is supposed to look like. And I think it can be really powerful when someone is within that demographic is saying, yeah, this is how someone can look, but it absolutely does not have to be like this at all. If we can start putting the emphasis on feeling good and performing well, you're just going to feel so much better about the entire process. So yeah, my final parting message here is put the focus somewhere else. It really is when things start going well in terms of exercise and nutrition long term, is if you don't make that the sole focus.
Episode 5 discussed a topic that is not just talked about often, but I know affects so many people, and that is chronic pain. The episode title was One Hidden Piece to Helping Your Chronic Pain Puzzle. I will tell you, this came out of my own personal experience with some lower back issues that I have been dealing with. And I had received an email that happened to mention chronic pain, and that just sent me down a rabbit hole. And so I thought, you know what? If I am going down this, I might as well bring it to you. In that episode, I share my journey with some chronic pain, the brain's role in it, strategies for managing chronic pain, how to rethink it. If you have been dealing with chronic pain, or if you have a loved one who has, it might be worth sharing that episode. Tell them you care about them, and here is something to consider. We had another two-parter in episodes 6 and 7 with Sarah Pritchard. Sarah is with Impact Recovery Centers in Birmingham, Alabama, and we talked about addiction. This episode covers so much that I did break it into 2 episodes. We talk about how addiction is a disease, how why just stop isn't really helpful advice. We talk about the recovery process, how to support loved ones. This is something I have been hearing about more and more, and it's not discussed enough in the church, and it's not discussed enough in Christian communities, which is why I wanted to tackle it and I wanted to bring it on to the Graced Health podcast. We also talk about just kind of the church's response to addiction and understanding addiction in religious communities. If you have a loved one who is dealing with addiction, this is a great episode to listen to. You can pass on. Sarah is the host of an excellent podcast on YouTube called Impacting Recovery Uncensored, where they have honest, unfiltered conversations. And that is a great resource. Here is Sarah's one simple thing from our 2 episodes.
To have compassion for yourself, whether you're the one going through it or you're the family member, and to have compassion for the loved one, whether you're the one struggling with alcohol right now, have compassion with yourself and have compassion for your family that's probably concerned. And if it's the flip side of that, if you're the family member, have compassion with yourself that you don't know what to do, and that's okay. And there are people out there that can help, and have compassion for your loved one because they're very, very sick.
In episode 13, what's the word? I get a little snarky. Like sometimes I've just had it, and I had just had it. So I did my very first rant, rave, and review, a peek in what's swirling in Amy's head. So this was just kind of 3 unique parts of an episode. I have a rant about something, I raved about something else, and then I reviewed an article. And I will tell you, I've got another one coming up in August because I've had it. I've had it with something and I'm going to rant about it. So you can wait for that one. But if you want to hear me getting a little testy, do we want to call it that? You can go listen to that. And I have gotten some great feedback on the review portion, which is an article that I reviewed about understanding tiredness. If you are someone who feels like you are tired all the time, or apparently doctors will write it out TATT, short for tired all the time, then this might be something that would be interesting to you. And if you want to skip the rant, you can just fast forward a little bit. Episode 15 could have been a little bit of a rant, but not so much. Like I don't get as snarky, but this one was called The Maximization and Optimization Myth, Finding Grace in Your Health Journey. We are in a culture of maximizing, however you want to call it, optimization, and it's making some of us miserable. In fact, I saw an article which was the catalyst for this conversation or for this episode. And I just thought, ooh, this is really good. So let's talk through this and let's talk about this maximization trend through the lens of our Graced Health core values, which is knowledge, discernment, diversity, encouragement, faith, and grace. If you are overwhelmed or tired of all the people telling you to do all the things, or maybe if you have a loved one and you are somewhat concerned about their obsession with wellness culture out there, this might be a good one for you to listen to. Episode 18, I welcomed Stephanie Ravenscraft for the episode entitled Breaking Free from Expectations, Finding Your True Identity. It's funny, we were going to talk more about empty nesting, but it turned into more embracing your true identity, navigating life transitions with confidence. I loved her story of transformation, and she just really offers some practical advice for women who are experiencing major life changes. Here is Stephanie's one simple thing.
I think the biggest thing that came out of our talk today is to be free to be yourself, to find what that means for you, to be comfortable in your own skin, and to know that you love you and God loves you, and that equals a happy life.
And finally, in episode 21 is the self-talk revolution, speaking to yourself as kindly as you speak to others. This is another solo episode where I try to create a very nice Venn diagram of our faith, of grace, of health, of our mind and our the way that we think, and just putting that all together so that we can stop being the meanest person in the room to ourselves, because so many of us are. We think worse thoughts about ourselves than anyone ever says about us. It's not something we see, but because I have the privilege of talking with various people, I know it's there. So if you are tired of the self-talk, if you are tired of the war inside your head, this one may help gently guide you through and thinking about this in a different way. That is all of our episodes in season 23. Over the next month, I am going to be taking a little bit of a break, though it does take some time on the front end to put together, and we will be having something called a moment of grace. Many of my guests bring these beautiful, unexpected truth bombs that are worth hearing again. So in July, we will be having shorter episodes of a moment of grace where I am pulling out a few things that our guests say just to give us grace in whatever topic they are covering. It's been fun for me to go back and listen to these episodes. It's stuff that I have needed to hear again. So I'm hoping that you will find value in what they are saying, whether or not you have heard them before. And it will just be a nice reminder. And it's something nice and short to listen to. So please don't skip over those. I promise it will be worth the 5 to 10 minutes of you re-listening again, because if it's on there, it's good stuff. And I can say that because my guests say it, not me. And looking ahead toward the end of the year, we are going to celebrate, get this, 500 episodes. How have I done 500 episodes? I do not even know, but we're going to be getting there. I would like to celebrate in some way, and I don't know what to do. I have no ideas at this point. I would love to hear from you. So do you have any ideas on how I celebrate this? If you get my emails, you can just respond to any email. I read them all. Or you can also click that very top link in the very top of your show notes that says, have a question, click here. So what are your thoughts? How should we celebrate 500 episodes? Because I'm not a big birthday person, I'm not a big celebration person, but 500 is a lot. And I would like to do something to commemorate that. And by the way, I do know that I did just have a birthday that I celebrated with you, but that was 50. So I feel like that was worth celebrating. Anyway, I would love to hear any ideas on how to celebrate 500 episodes. And especially if you all can be involved in that, that would be even better. And finally, if you do not receive my Nourishing Notes bi-weekly newsletter every 2 weeks, then I want to get this in your hands. Why? Not because I'm trying to sell something to you, but because it's just a fun way to fill your soul. I give you recipes. I typically share things that I'm enjoying eating. Often I have recipes. I have movement ideas. We will do something fun. Lately, I have been sharing a lot of Holderness family reels because they bring me joy. They just bring me joy, and I would like to share them. But it's just a fun space that comes out on a Friday afternoon when you're winding up your day and you're thinking, oh, I'm kind of ready for the day to be done, but I can't leave work yet. Or you just want to transition into the weekend. This is the thing to get you there. So if you have not gotten my nourishing notes, just go to Graced Health, GRACED health.com/nourishing-notes. Okay, that is all for today. Go out there and have a graced day. Did you know grip strength is actually an indicator of longevity? Now, the good news is you don't need to go rock climbing and increase your grip strength like we used to see on America's Ninja Warrior. If you are needing to make your hands and your fingers a little bit stronger, you can do things like get a stress ball and squeeze it. You can get some rubber bands and put them between your finger and your thumb and just work on expanding and contracting. Or you can even get one of those old school grippers. I remember my dad having one a long time ago, and it's probably time for me to get one as well. You don't have to go crazy about it, but just doing little things like that can actually help your quality and quantity of life. Hey, I'm so glad you've tuned in today. Thank you. A quick note before we go. This podcast has over 400 episodes and is on a journey of growth and evolution, just like all of us. Some episodes before January 2024 may contain references to diet culture or perspectives that don't fully align with our current approach to health and wellness from a weight-neutral, intuitive eating perspective. So, listen with a discerning ear, take what serves you, and leave the rest. Thanks for understanding and for growing with us on this journey.